freedom, seeing an upturn in the majority of world economies, according to Heritage Foundation. The global economy is now moderately free, with an average score of 61.1, the highest ever. The usual suspects, Hong Kong and Singapore, taking the top 2 spots, followed by New Zealand, Switzerland and Australia. The US managing to halve its recent slide, ranked 18 on the list. China coming in at the 110th position. Bernie, you know what? I'm not surprised to see that the least free coming out here is North Korea. That doesn't surprise me at all. It does surprise me, however, that Hong Kong is sitting at number 1.
Well, excuse me, and here I was with a smile on my face. You just mortally offended me for eternity. Well, don't worry, because Singapore is at number 2 and Australia is at number 5. So, you know, with our interesting, you know, biodiversity here and ethnic mix, we're doing pretty well amongst ourselves here. We're very well represented. Oriel, Dr. Edwin Feulner, founder and former president at the Heritage Foundation, joins us for a little chat about free, mostly free, not so free, and not free. Dr. Ed, good to see you. How
good
you
to
doing?
see you, Bernie, always. Thanks for having me back.
Well, if there's one thing, Hong Kong and Singapore sure have staying power, don't they, at the top of these rankings?
This is 24th annual. The rankings have been the same all the way. Ariel, I hate to tell you, but last year Hong Kong was up 0.4%. Singapore was up 0.2%, so the gap has widened a little bit. Hong Kong's a little bit better, so Singapore's going to have to work a little bit harder next year.
Anything to worry about? They keep talking about, you know, more public spending, building, because of the housing issues.
Yeah,
there are a lot of massive, big housing issues in both economies. Both
economies, and we hope that if the Hong Kong government particularly can get out of the business, put more land out, let's revert to something that's a little bit closer to market systems. We'll be a lot better off here. One of the big stories, though, as far as we're concerned, I will admit it, Oriel, sorry about this, but I'm a big Trump fan, and the United States has not only stopped the decline, it's moving in the right direction. Our cutoff for data is June 30, so we don't include the tax plan that just went into effect a month ago. So United States will be doing better.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't include that. That means... Go ahead, Oriel. Yeah, look at the Oriel's just jumping up and down with excitement here.
Well, I'm not sure. I thought you were going to be my friend here, Doctor, but it appears that that's not the case. In all seriousness, though, when you're talking about the US, just how much do you expect these rankings to change on the back of tax reform? And let's throw caution to the wind and throw an infrastructure plan in there as well. What happens to the ratings then?
Okay. Tax plan will make the United States much better. Remember, it was just 12 years ago that the United States was 5th in the world. Now it's 18th. That's not a good run for the last 10 years. Infrastructure, depending. Private-public partnerships, yes. More just federal spending, not so good. Federal and state combos, that'll be okay. We're very upbeat about the U.S. and where it's going, and the reason why it did so much better in this year's ranking is because of the early deregulation from the Trump era. So it's looking good there, and of course the U.S., like it or not, is still the engine that pulls the world train.
It's interesting that the UK is out there, sitting there on the list at number 8. I mean, how much do you see Brexit impacting this?
Yeah. Well, you tell me. I guess it depends on what kind of a deal they manage to cut with the EU. Ireland's actually fallen behind the UK, which is a little bit of a surprise to us, too, who've been watching this over the last many years. So it is a constantly moving pattern. One of the things I was commenting to my colleagues about was, I remember the very first issues 24 years ago, and number 4 was Bahrain. Right now, Bahrain's down to number 50. So the countries really can make a difference and either do the right kind of economic policy or the wrong kind. And the right kind, of course, doesn't just look good for the government or for big business. The right kind of economic policy means the average person's income, per capita income, is going up. We've had Robert Barrow from Harvard do essays for us in past issues, and that's the main thing that we always concentrate on. It's good for the typical citizen of whatever country if that country has a higher economic freedom score.
Finally, Dr. Feulner, do you worry about what's going on the trade front, you know, with this washing machine, solar panel. Today we're talking about steel executives in America petitioning the president to do something. I mean, do you think that, you know, President Trump may engage in a trade war with the rest of the world, China?
Yeah,
mainly.
China.
What would that
do? We worry about it because, as you know, we are basically free traders. When Donald Trump stands up, whether he's in Davos or at the UN, says America first, he's saying the same thing basically that any leader is going to say about their own country. So we're not as worried about that as we are about making sure that everybody's playing by the rules, IPR in China, things like that we worry about, and that we then can make the right case in terms of why we have to keep trade free and open, because that's what we're in favor of.
Yeah, Wilbur Ross, I think, did a very good thing when he was at Davos and asked others, you know, name a more open economy in the U.S. and others were caught tongue-tied in the process. Ed, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
It's always good seeing you.
Likewise.
Dr. Edwin Feulner, founder and former president of the Heritage Foundation, and Squawk back with the final word in just a couple.